On July 10, Foxconn Group released a statement announcing that it had pulled out of its $19.5 billion semiconductor joint venture with India's Vedanta Group. In response, India's Union Minister Rajeev Chandrasekhar said that the decision had no impact on India's semiconductor manufacturing goals, and that the government did not need to explain why, how, or ultimately, why the two private companies had partnered or chosen not to. It is important to realize that it was only in September last year that Foxconn signed a memorandum of understanding with Indian firm Vedanta to set up a joint venture. In its statement, Foxconn did not mention the reasons for its withdrawal or give any explanation. However, it should be noted that $19.5 billion, for the total amount of foreign investment attracted by India, is by no means gross, but a very important part. Not long ago in late June, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the United States, can be said to be full of harvest. Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Google and other US technology giants, many have made a commitment to invest in India. Among them, Amazon promised to increase its investment in India in 2030 to $26 billion. It is not known to what extent the promises can be fulfilled, but it is an indisputable fact that a number of multinational corporations, including American companies, have been increasing their investments in India in recent years. But on the other hand, the reality of India and constantly to foreign enterprises to do risk tips. June 9, India's law enforcement agency issued a notice, suspected of violating India's Foreign Exchange Management Act, for the reason that the Indian branch of Xiaomi nearly 5 billion yuan of funds. Our channel has also shared this, and the video link I have placed below for interested viewers to click and watch. In today's video, I'm going to share with you the timeline of the two companies' cooperation, and the possible reasons for their exit. Why is it that despite all the criticisms about India's business environment, a lot of foreign investment is still coming into the country? Is India an opportunity or a risk for foreign companies? Please join me in sharing. Feel free to share in the comments section. Let's start now. It took Foxconn less than a year from the official announcement of the investment to its failure, and here's a timeline breakdown of how this investment failed. February 14, 2022, Foxconn announces a partnership with Vedanta to manufacture semiconductors in India to diversify its business. Foxconn says the partnership will provide a significant boost to India's domestic electronics manufacturing industry. September 13, 2022, Foxconn and Vedanta sign an agreement to invest $19.5 billion to set up semiconductor and display manufacturing facilities. Modi's home state of Gujarat has been chosen to host these plants. September 14, 2022, Vedanta chairman Anil Agarwal says the company doesn't see funding problems for the joint venture. May 19, 2023, India's Deputy Information Technology Minister Rajeev Chandrasekhar says the joint venture is difficult to set up with a technology partner. May 31, 2023, progress on the Vedanta-Foxconn JV has been slow as talks involving ST Microelectronics have stalled. Sources close to the matter say Foxconn and Vedanta have persuaded ST Microelectronics to join the partnership and license their technology, but the Indian government has made it clear that it wants ST Microelectronics to include more interests in the partnership, such as a stake in the joint venture. June 30, 2023, India's market regulator fines Vedanta for disclosure violations, after Vedanta issued a press release making it appear that it had entered into a partnership with Foxconn to manufacture semiconductors in India. July 10, 2023, Foxconn pulls out of its chip joint venture with Vedanta without giving a reason, saying only that Foxconn has decided not to move forward with the joint venture project with Vedanta. Foxconn says the company has been working on the project for more than a year, but the two parties have mutually decided to terminate the joint venture. Why did Foxconn pull out? Since Modi came to power, he has been pushing Make in India, promising $10 billion in incentives for Make in India companies. But the incentive program seems to be in trouble. Foxconn is said to be concerned about the Indian government's delay in approving the incentives, which is one of the reasons why it decided to pull out of the joint venture. In order to apply for the subsidy, Foxconn has submitted a cost estimate for the construction of the plant to the Indian government. However, the Indian government raised several questions about this cost estimate. Another reason concerns technology partner ST Microelectronics. Although Foxconn, Vedanta successfully let ST Microelectronics to join the cooperation, to provide them with technology licensing, but the Indian government has clearly hoped that the ST Microelectronics in this cooperation to join more interests, such as holding shares of the joint venture. However, ST was not enthusiastic about this and the negotiations stalled. It is difficult to deny that this policy risk will be more or less affected by political factors, but such events as the 2020 Apple India factory suffered vandalism for foreign companies. This is a more fundamental risk tips. Some media called India foreign enterprises tomb, emotional a little heavy, but is not empty. After all, India's seizure of foreign enterprise funds, huge fines, before many foreign enterprises in India have learned. Which is the real India? Undeniably, in India actively layout of foreign-funded enterprises began to face more resistance. Local time on June 9, the Indian government to Millet in India and Citibank, HSBC, Deutsche Bank issued a notice, claiming that Millet in violation of India's Foreign Exchange Management Act, to foreign entities, illegal transfer of funds. For this reason to Millet issued the penalty of freezing funds was imposed on Xiaomi. It is reported that Millet Group 2022 adjusted net profit of 8.5 billion renminbi yuan, the frozen funds equivalent to 57% of Millet net profit last year. Less than a week later, India has a new action. According to India's Economic Times, reported on June 13, the Indian government asked Millet, OPPO, Realme and Vivo and other Chinese smartphone makers to appoint Indian nationals to top positions such as CEO. According to the report, Indian government officials specifically instructed Chinese companies to comply with local laws and not to evade taxes in India. Considering that foreign companies in India have been frequently investigated and penalized, this reminder can't be ignored by all foreign companies in India. 2008, the Indian Tax Department demanded Microsoft to pay 7 billion rupees in taxes for the reason that the amount of tax delivery was insufficient. In 2013, the Indian regulatory authorities demanded IBM to pay 535.7 million in back taxes for the reason that IBM misreported its revenue for the fiscal year of 2009. IBM to pay 53.57 billion rupees in back taxes. Samsung, which was fined $200 million in taxes by India in 2014, faced a new round of allegations from India's Revenue Intelligence Service in January this year, that Samsung was trying to avoid import duties of 17.28 billion rupees, or about $212 million, by misclassifying remote radio heads. On the other side of the coin, the constant fines issued by the Indian authorities have not slowed down the pace of foreign investment in India. On June 20, Tesla CEO Musk met with Narendra Modi, who was visiting the United States. Musk said after the meeting, "We'll go to India as soon as possible to invest, so that Tesla into the Indian market." Chinese automaker BYD is also accelerating its entry into India. At the India Auto Expo held in January this year, Gopalakrishnan, senior vice president of BYD's Indian subsidiary, announced BYD's plan to capture 40% of India's electric vehicle market by 2030. According to business data platform Statista, total FDI inflows into India reached an all-time high of nearly $84 billion in FY 2022, despite the impact of the new crown epidemic. A report published by the United Nations in 2022, on the other hand, shows that India is among the top 20 FDI recipients in the world. Today, sustained FDI has become an important support for India's economic growth. Whether investing in India represents an opportunity or a risk for foreign companies depends not only on media reports, but also on certain key indicators. Doing business is a key issue for both foreign companies and local industries to thrive. Doing business is defined as the sum of the external environment and conditions in which enterprises and other market players operate in the market economy, and it has a profound impact on the cost of survival and the space for development. The Doing Business report issued by the World Bank is the most recognized evaluation standard in this field. It consists of 10 first-level indicators and 46 second-level indicators, scoring economies on the ease of doing business in terms of the cost of starting a business, the quality and efficiency of regulation, and the quality of public services. According to the latest Doing Business 2020 report as of now, India is ranked 63rd out of 190 economies. While it is still a long way from Modi's ambition to be in the top 50, which he declared when he came to power in 2014, there is no denying that doing business in India is indeed improving. The report shows that India is among the 10 most improved economies. While in 2016, India was ranked only 130th. According to the data given in the said report, India's performance in terms of ease of doing business is much higher than the average of South Asian countries. Compared to other major developing emerging powers, India's performance is second only to China. China is ranked 32nd on the Ease of Doing Business Index, again one of the 10 most improved economies. India now has a population of 1,428.6 million, surpassing China as the world's most populous country, according to United Nations data from April this year. At the same time, India's age structure is also relatively young, with 40% of the population under the age of 25. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, data for 2021, India's labor force has exceeded 900 million people. Abundant and relatively cheap labor means lower production costs, and the huge population base points to potentially strong purchasing power. Therefore, foreign investment into India is not without risk, but for long-term interests, or will choose to enter the game as soon as possible. However, industrial development is not only related to the number of laborers, but also closely linked to the quality of labor. India's labor force has a long history of chaotic management, low productivity, and other problems. In addition, the Indian native workers riot, and even burning foreign enterprises plant news from time to time. This is also in India has been cultivated for 15 years of ODM factory Wistron in May this year announced that will be dissolved in India. Business is one of the important reasons. The reasoning here is not difficult to understand. Labor and productivity are not the same thing. Whether or not a large population means a large consumer base for foreign companies to look at is even another matter. In addition, the Indian legal system follows English common law, which theoretically provides society with a higher level of institutional security in the world. However, this forward-looking top-level design is divorced from the actual situation in India, which objectively seriously inhibits the demand for investment and is not conducive to the improvement of production efficiency. India's labor code is widely regarded as the most stringent labor legislation among OECD countries. Take the law related to employee employment as an example. Once a company has more than 90 employees, it must form a labor union. In order to terminate or lay off employees, companies with more than 100 employees need to obtain approval from the local government. In short, India's relevant laws, although docking the high end, but not grounded, in reality, hindering the attraction of foreign investment. How to grasp this balance? The current view directly tests the political wisdom of the Indian political elite. In the view of many professionals, the determination to enhance India's position in the global economy, Modi, is still unable to convert foreign direct investment into domestic manufacturing strength. At this stage, multinational enterprises in India to set up factories more important purpose, or grab the consumer market, rather than based on the global strategic layout. That's all for today's sharing. Welcome to leave comments and retweets. We will see you in the next installment.